guys, it's Kelly and welcome back to another minimalism video. Now, we're still talking about my first experience with the Marie Kondo method, and we're going to talk about the hardest category to talk about, and that's kimono. And this video is probably not going to be very long considering it's the largest category, but honestly this category it breaks down however you need it to break down. So it's kind of the hardest to talk about because it's everything. So if it's not sentimental or memento, paper, books, or your clothes, it's everything else in your house. And basically what you do for kimono is you break down into categories everything in your house. So I did like linens, which included, like towels, blankets, sheets, all those kinds of things. Kitchen. You could do kitchen food, kitchen appliances, however you want to do it, but kitchen. Garage, decorations, holiday decorations, anything that you collect. Like I have been collecting shot glasses for a really long time, so I have a ton of shot glasses. Just anything. Like if you're a decorative pillow person, decorative pillows, your craft supplies, all those kinds of things. So some of this was like really easy for me. I think I started, electronics is one, electronic media is another one, like your DVDs, your CDs, your Blu-rays, whatever you still have, VHS. If you have like extra DVD players because they were still good, but all of your rooms have a Blu-ray player in them that have a TV, why do you still need DVD players in your closet? Because Blu-ray players play DVDs. DVD players do not play Blu-rays. It's those kinds of things. Having an obsessive amount of cords and stuff like that. Stuff in your garage. Tools, to chemicals, all those things. So you have to break down the categories as to what makes sense to you, for like your different hobbies and stuff. But one thing that I've hit on in all of these videos is going to Laura from How to Get Your Shit Together's website, and I will link it down below. If you become a member to her website, you have access to her free printables, and her list to help you do the KonMari method is amazing. She literally, like I've said in other ones, she breaks down every category for you, most of them. You also have to remember that she is originally from Ireland, so some things that like might be like really big in America might not be over in Europe. So I mean, you have to kind of add things yourself if you're really into stationery. Now, some of these categories may seem too huge whenever you start looking at them, but that's another thing that she does. So whenever she does like DVDs and like those types of medias, like CDs, DVDs, and all that kind of stuff, she breaks it down even further to like VHS, DVD, Blu-ray. If that's still too overwhelming, which I went through mine like that because before I started, I had over 1,000 movies and box sets on all three of the different formats. But she breaks it down, like do like your kids movies, your action movies, your comedy movies. So if something starts seeming too overwhelming, break it down into another subcategory. Do that subcategory and then move on. So these categories literally can be anything that you want them to be. Kitchen for me was kind of one of the easiest and one of the most fun, and it's actually the first one that I started with. because I am in the kitchen all the time. I was getting really tired of not having enough counter space because I had too many big appliances on my counters, but I didn't have room for them in my cabinets. So I went through my stuff and I realistically looked at what I had, what I used. I reorganized things like by type and by size, got rid of stuff. And after I did all of that, like my giant KitchenAid mixer has a spot in the cabinets. It's not too difficult to get in and out of. My blender went up in the cabinets. I think the only appliance left out on my counters is my toaster. And that's because I go through like these phases of like needing it like every day. And I keep a electric tea kettle out. But I also have a regular tea kettle on the stove. So I have both out, but the electric one is like super old. It doesn't take up much room. So I'm not too worried about that. Compared to the other things that I had on my counter, better believe. So it's those kinds of things. Yeah, so I did my kitchen first, and some of it I didn't always take everything out at one time. This is kind of where I took a little bit of like free liberty because if you've been following my journey from the beginning, like last summer, as far as decluttering using this method, I kind of purge all the time. Like if I'm just like cleaning my house and like I just stumble across something, I always have like a donation bin going. I don't know why. I do know why. And I explain it in my very first minimalism video. I am so paranoid of following my family's footsteps of becoming a hoarder that like if something is no longer of use to me, like I automatically know I don't need to keep it. Like there's no reason for me to have it. So I was even shocked with my own progress. Now, certain categories I kind of wish I had more progress in, and I've talked about some of those issues, like with my clothes and stuff. Like some of the items, like it wasn't like the time to wear them or whatever, and I'm not just gonna get rid of something to get rid of it. So like I wanted to like go through a season and see if, after that season was over, if I would still, need it or what have you. So there's different like circumstances as far as some of that stuff goes, but for the most part, I was really able to look at most things pretty objectively, and I'm really proud of that. Do I still see a need to get rid of more things? Obviously, of course, all the time, actually. Like I sometimes literally have to stop myself from just constantly decluttering everything out. Like sometimes it feels like it's just better to light a match and just walk away. But that's unrealistic and kind of crazy. And I would never do that. But sometimes you kind of like feel that way. And whenever you're starting to feel that way, you just need to like step away for a day. Komono took me the longest. Like holiday decorations, I was doing this during the summer, and I decided that by the time I got to Komono, I think it was like mid to late August. So I decided that Halloween was coming up really soon, so I could declutter my Halloween decorations as I was putting them out. And so basically, if I came across some decorations that I no longer liked or wanted to keep or wanted to put out in my house, then that would be the perfect time to get rid of them and only have the items left that I actually wanted to be putting out in my house. And so I did the same thing at Christmas time with Christmas decorations. The only thing that I need to go through as far as Christmas decorations goes this upcoming year is going to be ornaments. I did not take the time to go through ornaments this last year, but I'm kind of okay with that because I do not like the storage bin that my ornaments are in at the moment. We've had them for years. They don't stay together well anymore. They're kind of, I don't want to say they're broken because they aren't broken. They just aren't great quality. They spent too many years up in an attic. They don't latch well anymore. And sometimes you have to be very careful whenever you're like carrying them, and we've broken ornaments because of it before. And so one of the things that I want to do this next year is find better storage containers for my ornaments. So, obviously that's going to be a big goal of mine this year, is getting better storage for that. So as I'm transferring from the old storage to the new storage, I'm going to cull them then. And I kind of decided that this Christmas. And that's kind of why I just kind of like left it. Also because I didn't end up putting any ornaments on my tree. So I didn't take anything out of the bins anyways. And there's too many. I just didn't want to mess with it. In all honesty, I really didn't. What else? One of the hardest ones for me was craft supplies, and I had so many craft supplies, and I wasn't as hard or critical of myself on my cross stitch supplies because I literally try to cross stitch every single day, and I have a ton of whips and things like that, but my patterns and fabrics and stuff like that, if I don't need them or want them anymore, it's really easy to sell them on like a destash page or destash them myself through my YouTube or my Facebook group. And so I'm not too worried about having an excess of those. And so I was really super critical though of my quilt supplies and the fabrics that I've collected over the years, because I don't quilt that much, and whenever I do make a quilt, I get like all this stuff for it all at one time, except for like maybe like the backing, because I can always find a solid that'll go with it, and I'm fine with that. But for the most part, I find all the things that I need for it to make the top at least, and I don't like having a stash. And like all my friends in my quilt guild, they have like these massive stashes, and they save like all the tiniest like scraps for future things, and I don't do that. I do that with my cross stitch, but that's because I'm more passionate about my cross stitching than I am my quilting. Even though I love them both equally, I tend to gravitate more towards the cross stitch. So I wasn't as strict on myself about that, but that's because I'm in a bigger community for it as far as cross stitch goes, that if there is anything that I want to get rid of, it wouldn't be hard for me to do that. My quilt stuff though, I was really super critical on the things that I was keeping, and anything that I did decide to get rid of, I donated it to my charity bee so that way it could be used for charity. So I felt really good about that. I didn't just take it to Goodwill or the resale shop or anything like that. I didn't make it just like a random donation. I gave it to my guild. I put it back in my guild to put back into the community by making things. So, and I went through like my older crafts, like I used to make jewelry and stuff. And for that, I got rid of a lot of like the old beads and like the stuff, like I gave them to another friend who does that kind of thing, but I did keep the tools because the tools are kind of expensive, but like the beads and stuff like go in and out of what you're wanting and stuff like that. So I didn't feel bad about giving somebody the beads, but I wasn't going to also give away the tools because I may need the tools to like repair a necklace or something, which I actually had to do for a friend at Christmas time. I went through like some of that stuff, and like I used to like paint and stuff a lot at home, but a lot of the paints had gone bad. So a lot of like my acrylics and stuff I got rid of. I only kept a couple of like the very basic colors like white and black because they were still good. And it's been so long since I painted at home that if I do need to paint anything, I'll just go and get the color that I need. And in the size container that I would need to use. So I felt really good about those kinds of things, but that's kind of where I had like some stumps and things like that. But otherwise, all the other categories went really well. Some of the stuff like chemicals and like tools out in my garage and stuff, I couldn't really get rid of. I mean, you use them, but I did organize them better. And so that was a lot of progress in itself. So now it's just easier to find things and, easier to like put them back and all that kind of stuff. So Komono being the biggest category of things that you own is also just the hardest to talk about because of that. So I'm hoping that this next go round, whenever I am hopefully filming more while I'm doing the new process, it will be easier to show and explain some of these things as they're happening. But reflecting now, it's just the things that I knew were going to be more difficult were actually more difficult, and crafts were really one of the more difficult ones for me. Otherwise, like, if a towel is just too gross or whatever, but you can always rip it up and make like cleaning cloths or like cloths for the garage. And that's another thing that we do. Like if a towel is in decent-ish condition, but not condition like it's not sopping up like enough water or whatever, like whenever you're showering, like it's just kind of worn out, that it can be like a drop cloth or something like in the garage, then we'll get rid of like a really tattered one from the garage and move some older ones from the house in there and that kind of thing. So if they're never like fully going out and just never being used again, we do reuse and put things to better use. So you just have to kind of like find that balance on what's going to work for you. But yeah, kimono is whatever you make it. And like I said, I will link Laura's website down below. If you sign up for it, it is free. You have access to that document and it gives you so many ideas and whatever, whatever is really important in your life, you'll see from that list, like, beauty items, makeup, like stuff in your shower, like shower gels, shampoos, all that kind of stuff that's on there, like skincare, beauty, makeup, nail polish, all that kind of stuff they're all categories. Hair stuff, like all your tools for hair, hairspray, mousse, all that kind of stuff. Those are all things. Medicine cabinets, go through, make sure things aren't out of date. Make sure like your equipment is good. You're stocked up on, Band-Aids and whatever. Like all that kind of stuff. Organize it. Even if you can't get rid of anything, just look at it, double check, and organize it. So this isn't necessarily just a time to go through and get rid of things and declutter. It's also a time to reorganize. Like while you're staring at it, making sure that you don't need to get rid of anything, clean it up, make it look nicer. Put it in a new spot that makes more sense or is more like feasible. So it's all of those processes. So that is, I told you this one would be kind of a short one for being the largest category because it's really whatever you want to make of it. And hopefully this next go round will be a little bit more easier to talk about as I show each category. But that is it for kimono. Please, if you liked this video, subscribe, and I will see you in the final video for my first round experience at KonMari. I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.